Habaragani, what's the news? The news is Kujichagulia, self-determination. And I want to take this time to speak a little deeper on Kwanzaa and unity and self-determination for 2011. Self-determination is determining our own path, our own name, our own religion, our own sense of politics and social structure. But self-determination is also something that must begin first with the self. We have to have self-determination coming to the table. Many of us seek out the table, if you will, group, the organization, the church, the religion, the path, seeking self. But ultimately, you must bring self to the forefront to be an active, healthy participant within the community and the greater community to affect any positive change, lest we reinfect others with our own illness, our own sickness. So I tend to notice in co-unity those that present a perpetration of consciousness, black consciousness, who particularly decide to choose days and times and seasons such as this to say the most derogatory, divisive, hateful, nasty things about the very people, the very communities that they claim and profess and perpetrate to represent, to have the best interest of. There must be something positive to be said about self-determination. Not only from a collective, communal perspective, but from an individual perspective. Often our greatest challenge will come from those closest to us. I dare say, seeing our youth now all in white t-shirts and black pants is not self-determination. It's more of a group, gang-like consciousness. And understand, community has a consciousness. Well, we have to come together at some point and co-unify in order to move forward for the greater good. But we cannot come as undetermined rather than self-determined or predetermined by others who have decided that we are either going to be thug or criminal-minded or Christian-minded or Islamic-minded and negate those things which our ancestors planted seeds and bore fruit of, and we now carry forth in the present. So in looking at and meditating on self-determination, it is important that we teach our young people and ourselves to move beyond peer pressure, to move beyond sensationalism and fadism and trendyism and saying what's most shocking and what's most tantalizing to get that ego, that most immediate ego-based response. We now live in a time when we have generations who have only grown up under hyperstimulation of TV, of internet and computer, of video games, and they now are addicted to and require a certain hyper-stimulated, aggressive, violent, without let me correct that, without any forethought of purpose, of goal, of destination, just hyper-stimulated, bouncing off the walls. Many of these generations, unfortunately, have had parents who have allowed themselves to become a part of systems as it relates to drugs and chemicals that even further produce this hyper-stimulated sense of presence that is now in our society. So we are now allowing that to become our self-determinant factor. We are now allowing the prison industrial complex to now become a determining factor in how we develop a path, how we develop as individuals, how we prepare ourselves moving forward, not only outside of our house, but outside of our skin. And that's not self-determined. You're still a slave. You're still a zombie to someone else's ideal, someone else's rationale, someone else's programming, someone else's determination. So in the spirit of Kujichagulia, in the spirit of Kujichagulia and self-determination, let's be pure in our meditation. Let's be honest and authentic, that we are not lemmings, that we are not followers, that we are not just doing what is most advantageous to money or popularity or fad, and that we truly think out before we click like. We've tested it. We click like, we see a certain look, a certain image, a certain face, a certain personality, a certain hero. No bother of the material, no bother of the intent and the emotion behind the material. Too many of us are easily led. Your buttons are too easily pushed. You are too easily manipulated. People too easily know what it is that you desire, so that they can just put that out there and just seduce you into something that's utterly wicked. If you can just step back with your third eye open and pay attention in clarity, in truth. So let's be real in our self-determination. Let's be authentic in our Kujichagulia as we move forward from 2011, the gateway portal, into 2012, the year that will be led by Papa Legba and Marasa, opening and closing doors. Many of these old ideas, they've lived their season. They've lived their cycle. And Jinn and Spirit are on their last gasp to try and maintain these structures, which are no longer relevant, which we now know authentically are not true, are not pure, are not honest, are not about the intention of the greater community, are not about you or your children, but are ultimately about themselves, carnality, ego, flesh. There's an understanding that people are lazy. We are lazy. We're not going to do the work. We're not going to study. We're not going to research to find ourselves approved, to be clear in our own understanding about what is and what ain't, and what's being said and presented to us. And often this is presented to us under a facade of unity. And we get caught up in the adrenaline, the hyperstimuli, that reality show, video game, fake world of stimulation, cut off from empathy, sympathy, understanding. For indeed, if you understand yourself, that's self-determination, then you come to the table already prepared, already girt with something to offer. And again, it still doesn't mean that we come to the table and we always agree. But we have to have some platform of understanding that is tried in the fire, in experience, in tradition, but also in understanding and newfound understanding. We must move forward. We have no choice, but we must move forward in a more authentic way, in a much more pure way, as it relates to Kujichagulia, self-determination, umoja, unity, and the spirit of Kwanzaa and Lulu Saba. All is indeed a blessing here at the House of the Divine Prince. Ashe.